So on the last video, part one of this little series, I did forget to mention that I have a website, and on my website I have a blog, and on that blog is the companion pieces for this video, and really it's just high resolution images, Hazel's comic there, and my sketches that you can click into and look at more closer. And I scanned the book cover and high res. I put a lot of drop shadow action behind each of them, so it looks nice, but it's really unnecessary. But I wanted to give you guys a feel of like owning the book, of like having this book, and without having to buy it. So I just tried to make the presentation as good as I could, and I really like it. And if you want to go over there and check it out, that I hope that would be a good resource for you if you're interested in just you know getting reference. And I do also write about the certain things about the process in which I don't mention on the video, and it's just I think a companion piece to the video, and you can just get a different look. So, but thank you guys for watching, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And I would love it if you guys love it. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like more content like this, and also like and share the video if you want. It all helps. So I appreciate the time and the effort. Part 2 of classic adventure comic strip. I do hope you guys have enjoyed that last video. I know it's rather long. I can get long in the tooth, but we covered a lot of stuff, and there's a lot in there. So I don't feel bad, but I do want to make stuff that's interesting content and informative and all that sorts of things. And I think what I'm making is going to be interesting to a specific set of people. So don't feel bad if you didn't like it. But thank you for being here in the second round. This is probably going to be a little shorter of a book tour. Maybe I don't quite know. I do know that this is not a as well known of an artist who illustrated this book. It's not a classic Disney concept artist. And actually, I didn't really find out who this illustrator was. His name is just Florian, just a singular name here in the book. And I might have done a little bit more digging, but I just sort of looked around, and I did not come up with anything obvious. But this is more about what this is, and illustration and interesting things, and less on the factual, historical preservation of what this is. I'm a very, I guess, practical guy, and I don't have too much time to spend just to research the history of everything I'm talking about. And I don't know that I don't know that that's a problem. I think that this is fine, especially for people that want to get things done, want to get good content out there, but also want to draw, and I want to make my comic, and all these things take time. So anyway, don't want to belabor that point, but I want to start off with okay, so this is King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. It's the Sir Thomas Malory. I guess it's excerpts in translation from Le Morte d'Arthur. But I thought this was pretty cool. This big illustration from cover to cover, front and back and spine. I actually, again, looking under the microscope like this, I just kind of realized this right now. And I think it's quite cool. All these very sort of candy color, more of a feminine color palette, I suppose you could say. A lot more pinks than reds and that sort of thing. It's nice. It's a good contrast from the kind of dark and I don't know, stormy climate around them. This is interesting. So if you look at this painting, this painting is by the same artist, Florian, and all throughout there's some color illustrations inside this book, but most of them are pen and ink illustrations. And it's interesting whenever the same artist does different things, both well, and I would say he's actually more of a competent pen and ink illustrator. You judge for yourself, but I really like his pen and ink work. But it's interesting to see how he translates both subject matters. In my mind, the clouds and the sky, and also these trees are just significant to me. I think they're really charming. Characters are fine. Horses, fine. Landscapes I think are his strong point, and something I'm really interested in showing. So that's the cover. This was let's see, publication date, Grassa and Dunlop, 2006 printing, but it was copyright 1950. It's the first printing, I believe. So some great pen and ink illustration headers. I'll be pulling it up a lot, I think, to the camera, but and I really don't have much to say on every illustration. I have a couple sort of highlighted back there that I really, really appreciate. So we'll speed it up a little bit. These are fine, competent. These are good. I love it when he does sort of a 2-page spread, though, there's no printing in the middle, in the fold. But, you still get that wide image. I really like that. Oh, I forgot to show the color illustrations. Here's one here. Very clean, very you could sort of, it's almost like this is a Photoshop image. It's just so clean and precise, and I think it's charming. It's kind of storybook, and I'm almost taking back what I said about his painting. And I wonder what kind of medium this is. This seems more of like a something done on Bristol or fine paper, and not much paint, more or less like color pencil with paint as well. Maybe a little mixed media, but I really love how the printing has helped this, and it just has this faint gradient from sort of sunset colors here to a more of a blue tinge, and that stuff is really important. Like, as small as this window is, it's, what is that, taking up I don't know, 10% of the whole illustration. It means something. It's part of the natural world and the setting that these characters are in, and just a beautiful, simple composition. He's lower, this fits above him, doesn't block her. Her head's coming a little bit close there to a tangent, but doesn't really harm it, I think. Shadows cast. It's really, really nice. I guess these are some spider webs, and again, it's shape language. He's not trying to draw the lines of the spider web. It's enough for him just to create these sort of I don't know, they almost look like bats or hammocks or something, but in the context of it's a prison and it's a corner of a brick wall, you get that this is a spider web. I think there's a first one back here. And, this one too. A little busy. I feel like this is very busy for, I feel like what's supposed to be the focal point here. There's, you know, I don't know why there's a horse necessarily right behind him. It's kind of an odd, very odd choice. I feel like this is a really odd choice for things lining up. There's just so much going on there. But whatever. I do really love this stamp. This is I suppose the Grosset and Dunlap symbol or signature here. But it's really nice. It's really fine. Centaur with a sort of a cherub on the back. But moving along. Here's some trees. These are very close-up trees, and you know, and this is obviously a forest, and that is the setting that this guy is sort of marching through, or hurriedly and scaredly running through. He looks pretty terrified, but I just love the negative aspect of the white showing through. And how that is, there's not a line that connects, that's outlining this limb here especially. And that might actually be the only place, but it does something very special. It makes it feel more realistic because there isn't a line there. And there's this, you know, to have this main tree in shadow on the left side, on the shadow side, you can't just have a shadowy background. You have to have some delineation to show that curve of the tree ends and there's shadow behind it. So, you know, these illustration techniques are just brilliant for just making it not a muddy mess, which is something I feel like I would definitely do. I just cringe whenever any of my images become just garbled and muddy. And I think he's doing a little bit there with his sleeve. This is the first markered image I have. I thought this was a really great image. I mean, it's not trying to be clever, you know. It's just like, let's just frame stuff. Let's just, you know, have a capsule on the back. Let's just do this A frame. I mean, it's like if you're a photographer and you're hunting for a best shot, you know, you would try your best to find just something that works for you. As an illustrator, I mean, you can do that yourself. You can make that happen by just putting the trees and whatever is around them, around the characters, just by putting it any you know, it doesn't necessarily have to make sense. I mean, tree can lean for sure, but you know, I think this is that storybook charm, where stuff is just so to make things clear, and you know, seeing these horse shadows, and then this horse that's more in the darkness. That horseman and horse are very light, very lit. Skipping over a lot of these are fine, but they're kind of seen this stuff before in other things. Those sort of classic illustrated books. I think this one's pretty special. I didn't mark it, but I do really like this natural just his natural ability to draw natural things, a tree, and make it feel just like carved and pitted, and how it connects to the land. And I think I think it makes sense, and I think that this exists in nature. I mean, stuff is weird out there. I think when we try to sort of sterilize, I feel like because we're not as much in nature, just by way of like a modern generation is driving around more, and we're not walking as much. We're not certainly not on horse and carriage, and but I'm assuming that this artist probably had more time outside than me or other people. But just the fact that there's a limb here at the bottom of a tree, that wouldn't come into my mind as something that would happen in nature. But I trust his vision and his perspective on nature more than my own. Another color illustration. Not too interesting to me. All right, let's just skip ahead. 2-page spread. This is starting. I'm starting to see, when I'm flipping through this book, this is where I started to analyze the sky and the ways in which he's using just one technique, just a pen and ink, to create a believable sky. He's not just leaving it white. He's very closely hatching, and this stuff is hard. It's not just obvious, but I love these shields here. Kind of like I suppose that's, I don't know, maybe it's shields of the defeated enemies. A lot better than heads, I suppose. And then just the straight road, just right there. So this was cool too. Just the way the landscape, well, the trees are all fantastic. I love how these curve and feel very sinuous and weird, just odd, these little things coming off. But how that frames and the sky pulls it down, and this sort of building up of earth. If you look, there's just like one sort of round earth plane, and there's another one, number 2 here where they're on, and 3 beyond them, and 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 back there. Maybe that's part of 7, but all a very small illustration, an area of that illustration, but it makes it like a believable landscape, I think. This one's cool, I think, for a couple reasons. The scale of the trees and the men just provides that epic quality that, like, it's, sometimes it's, I feel like, hard to be a little person in a big world, that doesn't necessarily feel good all the time. But if you think about it the opposite way, would you like to be a big person in a small world? It's like that would be very boring, to be looking down on things all the time. I mean, these characters are small and they're in such a big world. It's so much bigger than them, and older and stronger, and it's quite, there's something there. There's some sort of magic there, I think, that is important to convey when thinking about illustrating and contemplating a setting. The other thing I really love is just again, this is a tree thing, but the way this tree limb comes up and then this tree limb comes out and down and around, and he even puts a shadow there on that tree, and that just pops out, this being a very light branch and again dropping out the line. This is highly effective. Makes up for this other one that's kind of bad. It's kind of weird one that goes in and connects to the spear and flag. I wouldn't kind of suggest that, but this one makes up for that one. Look through. I think this one's a tree with some broccoli on it. It's got some leaves. I think it's a great abstraction. And again, look at how small these characters are. It's just a wonderful reminder that illustration doesn't have to be all about character. That's for me. I think whenever I think about something, I start thinking about character, and but the settings are just wonderful, and you can fit quite a few. I really need to get better at tiny abstractions of crowds. There's just very few lines down there making up those characters, but none of them are distracting and making me not believe that those are actual people. I think they're all very, very successful strokes and horses, and really brilliant. It's pretty cool. This is water, and this is a more of a drier brush here, I think, for the edge. That's something that hasn't been done, I think, in these illustrations that I've seen before. But that's it. That's it for this one. Definitely would recommend getting this to have and flip through. But I'll be scanning and putting some of these on my website. So you can go reference those there. I'll probably put a link below. But yeah, I don't know how easy it is to find this. I don't know where I got this. I just at a used bookstore, of course. But yeah, hope you like it. And let's get on to the comic strip. So I am speeding this up significantly, going about 8 times as fast, and the reason is because this isn't really that interesting. I think if it was at the normal speed, it would just be so boring, and I don't think there's anything really worthwhile. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just blocking in some of the characters and separating the elements, the characters and the background, and I'm just using a couple shades of gray and the white of the paper and black, and that's all. But to keep it interesting, I will try to fill up even the sped up time, and I'm just using basically, you don't really need a special brush, a special Photoshop brush for this. I'm using the ballpoint brush on Kyle T. Webster's Megapack set, and you can see there on the edges, sometimes I'll use it to get pretty nice effect. I think it's pretty nice effect, kind of like a sponge. And it kind of replicates traditional ink a little bit, in a lo-fi way. it's and a lot of times though I don't even use that. I think you see it here happening right now, but later on I don't use it just because it's not very clear. Sometimes it works, and I use it sparingly. I think this is a good rule of thumb for all um, digital techniques is to use things sparingly. So if it looks good, there's no guarantee it's going to look good everywhere, right? Um, something that's used ubiquitously can be distracting and it just might be too much. And so that's what I think about the kind of the edge of this Photoshop brush. You can see sometimes I like it when it works there, like kind of boxing in her hair a little bit. Gives a little life and action to moving elements that aren't like very crisp, like hair would be. But yeah, you just use a standard round brush, pretty much. I mean, especially if you're just trying to color a comic. I mean, the lines and the ink in the black areas are really your guides, and I feel like it works best when there's not much happening in between them as far as like color textures and Photoshop effects. I'm personally really interested in or I like a lot of the traditional techniques and digital techniques that look traditional, but and traditional print media. It's not necessarily traditional like watercolor or traditional oil painting or something, but traditional comic printing. So I wrote a little portion of this bottom section, and I mention, she mentions, the princess mentions that there's this sound on the air, and so I wanted to put that into effect, a sound effect, and illustrate, something that she's explicitly saying, but I wanted it to be kind of heard and felt by the audience, the reader too. So I'm just going for some for some O's, and it doesn't really. I mean, I don't know. It's like ooh. The more I think about it, the less it makes sense. It's not really a whooshing sound, but I think in context it makes sense and works. And I basically drew two O's, and then I just duplicated them, put them together, kind of stack them, and I'm playing with it, the size, and warping it a little bit. I end up not liking this. I'm a little ahead of the video, but I end up not liking this because it feels very replicated, even though there's two different O's there, and it's been warped a little bit. I'll go back actually and redraw the chain of O's, just because I want it to feel. I wanted to feel like I drew it on the page. You can see there. I'm just going back over and I'm drawing the outline of it, because I want it, the whole thing to feel organic. I want it to feel like I drew it, so I have to draw it. There's no way around it. You just have to do it, and there's a lot of really fun things that you can do, on this more personal level. Like, if you tailor everything, chances are it's going to feel like a tailored product, a story, a piece of artwork. And if you take shortcuts and just do things that are going to be time savers because they're time savers, well, that is going to result in a comic that looks like you did that. It's quite an obvious thing, I think, but I think it's good to state it, because there's just so many times when I'm not thinking, actually, when I'm creating something, and more I want myself and whoever's listening and interested in this to start thinking about what we're doing, and I think it's a real truth that the emotion and the soul that we're sort of coming at something is represented in the work, in the body of work, and a little piece of it is going to be felt by the people interacting with it and reading it. I'm just finishing that up there, and then I'm gonna marry the layer of O's to the drawing. I'm gonna keep it white and make it feel like just like it's part of that paper. It's a part of the background, and black and white. Really, it causes a lot of clarity. And this is I didn't mention him before, but I'm mentioning him now, and I'm thinking more and more. I feel like the results are more similar to Alex Toth. Some of his, a lot of his comics, the black and white, not in the quality of the draftsmanship or even the storytelling. He's just a very fantastic visual storyteller and artist. But the techniques of using black, white, and he a lot of times he just uses one layer of gray, which that was my kind of intention earlier, or it started to be my intention as I began thinking about values, so if you check out his work, search Alex Toth. I think you might find some things that are similar to this in the values, but much better than mine. This is pretty unpolished. Okay, I thought I was done. I had it printed out and everything, and there's this happens a lot of times, actually. It's not really that new, but something just like bugs me about this bottom left panel, and I want to change it. I want to make it just a little bit better, and I can already hear the internal monologue going, and I hear probably everyone else saying, "It's fine, leave it." But I thought these characters down here just weren't dynamic enough. I think I like just about everything else. I think if this matched with the rest of these panels, I would be fine with it. But there's just something that I can't quite explain that doesn't match up with it. I think maybe it's just a little too plain, or these figures are just, silhouettes are good, and I'm going to still keep them as silhouette, but I just didn't like the tight kind of metallic nature of like his torso, and it kind of looks like a robot, like, and I think I can turn this a little bit to make it a little bit better. But anyway, I'm just gonna walk you through the process of what I do when I edit, which I think is a very important step, and it's a step. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for myself that I think it's important. I do think it's always a step that has to be rationalized, because this is a time-intense thing. So you do sort of have to have a reason and a game plan for doing it. But I think once you make up your mind, you should do it, because this is what will set you apart many times from people that just don't want to spend more time on it, on something. So that's my thing about editing. Now let's go in. I'm going to remove all the blacks from here. I'm going to delete the layers I don't need. Delete this just to free up space. Bring it down to the basics. So I'm not trying to fix the I'm trying to fix the lines. The lines have to be fixed first, and then everything else will follow. I'll fix everything after that. So I'm going to separate and break out the elements inside the panel again. And I mean, you guys saw this before when I was editing kind of the wizard up on the right. This is just amazing kind of stuff that you do when you have Photoshop. I mean, I've always kind of had Photoshop, I suppose, when I was doing comics, but it's interesting to see the analog type of approach. Well, I mean, people who do ink, they still edit. I've seen people that edit, and they will use whiteout if it's a small edit, or they'll just create another panel on a different piece of Bristol or their preferred material, and then they'll just paste it over this panel. So that's kind of cool. I feel like it has been done. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel, but always cool to see that. So all right, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to turn the words on, and I'm going to start playing around with this configuration. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. The setting kind of feel like should be bigger, a little higher. Decline. Move this. These words can always shrink too, so I'm not too worried about them. But let's see. I should keep them in mind for sure. So this is the new kind of Princess and Prince 2.0, and as you can see, they're I'm probably going to make them a little bigger, and just a little bit more. There's a negative space here. There's a little bit more of a clearer definition of his kind of arms and boots and pants. Nothing major, but I think important. Important to me. So, all right. I do have my original lines saved on another layer, like just in case this goes south, and I want to retain these. But I'm just gonna erase them out. I also thought I could have done more with this kind of feathering this spiky bits down here a little better. A little better use of that technique, I feel like. All right, now we're gonna bring our friends down. Start marrying them kind of to the art again. Let's see, it might be a little too big. It can be small. You don't have to be monsters. I think I will shrink this. Doesn't need to be so big. It's already bigger than the regular words, so. Probably also redraw this bubble here. Don't like too much. Got to step back and look at the big picture too. If the reason why I'm redoing this is because it didn't match with this, I'm going to start looking at things here and these that I want to incorporate here. And one of them is high contrast. There wasn't as much contrast in this one as in these, I feel like. So we're going to try. Let me just play the scale again. I'm just going to. I'm not really showing much there anyway, so I don't really mind if this part gets cut out. I think the sky was so big because I kind of had intended to add some cross hatching and stuff here, and I might do that still. Well, probably not. All right, I'll expand it just a little bit more. I think we'll be good. I'll just keep rambling because I don't have much to say. You guys can just watch about this anymore. It's very tough for me to. If you guys have watched this channel for much time at all, you'll know it's very hard for me to discuss something as I'm doing it. But I can kind of ramble about other things. So I'll just ramble about the good old situation that we're in right now. And other people on YouTube have been saying, you can't really name they call it the beer bug, but whatever, we all know what the situation is right now in April of 2020. And for the most part, I've actually been really encouraged by a lot of things that are happening. I mean, of course, there's obvious discouragements everywhere, but I think it's important to look at areas that are going better than okay. Well, this project, I mean, is one of those kind of just just really beautiful occurrences, I feel like, that wouldn't normally happen, because it's in the neighborhood. You know, our leisure time is sort of spent walking around and maybe talking to our neighbors in going out in our neighborhood, and also online, people have just been really just, I feel like, pouring out like all kinds of stuff, all kinds of sharing and caring for each other, and this has been real cool, and brought that up because I would really encourage anyone who's trying to make comics to reach out to people. I mean, take this with a grain of salt. I mean, you can definitely reach out to me and ask me for advice or an email. I'm not, very famous at all, so I could spend some time answering an email or two. But what I think is going to set you up better in the long run is to start looking around you on social media and look around and see who your peer group is, who is relatively doing similar things to you and or as you, and if they're doing it with excellence, start talking to them, start following them, liking their stuff, maybe see if they want to get on Zoom. Everyone knows how to do that now. Start forming real relationships with people who previously you might have thought, well, they don't have time for me or time for that. And I mean, to be honest, they still might not, but now of all times, I feel like you can start getting a little bit more courageous in that area and reach out to people, see if they'd like to talk. Talk about the interests that they obviously like. I mean, if you're into comics, they're into comics. Chances are you can have a pretty good time talking about comics. Kind of be smart with your communication. Don't waste people's time. And that was something I kind of realized early on too, that it's like you can't just, we're not in, maybe if you're watching this, you're in high school or middle school, but I'm not. And there kind of has to be a reason why I'm talking to people, other than just like, I've known them in college, or like I like them and they're in my neighborhood or they go to my church or something like that. That's always good. But beyond that, if, because we're limited as adults and we have so much going on, there has to be a real reason why an adult and a professional artist would want to talk to someone new in their lives, and it's it's usually always a strike. I mean, that's not the right word, but a win when it's talking about their profession if they're a freelancer, because freelancers don't get to talk as much about their profession unless they go to cons, which of course are canceled right now. And that could be. I'm sort of trying to think for you, or place myself in a different position, but I'm thinking of like, let's say if you're interested in talking to someone, well, say that you're, writing a blog post on your blog or on your Instagram. You can reach out to people and ask to interview them. I mean, you can ask just anyone to do that. It's pretty crazy. And a lot of times people will respond in the affirmative because, I mean, we all want to get kind of boosted. We all want to get our names out there and our work out there. And if you can offer a creative person that you genuinely admire and want to talk to, if you can offer them a way of getting a little bit more out there, even if it's just your Instagram that has a couple hundred followers or whatever, you can't. There's no harm in asking. That's just what I would say. And get creative about your the way you learn, the way you communicate with other people. I think you'll be surprised at the results. But anyway, that's just a lot of rambling. I think I'm mentioning it because I have seen people doing this recently, and it's been really encouraging for me. And I want to encourage you. I mean, it's kind of why I'm picking up the reins of this YouTube channel. Trying to get a little bit better at doing tutorials again. A lot of people are on this channel because I did those traditional paintings, and it's been quite a long time since I've done stuff like that. So, and I'm not intending to. At that time, I was intending more to just get better at my illustration for children's books, and I am now currently doing graphic novels and comics, and so I gotta keep going on this path. So unfortunately, not as much traditional work going on right now. So sorry if that's why you came to this channel. Hope you stick around. I think there are multi disciplines, they're still good to listen to a broad range of people who are doing things tangentially related to what you're doing. All right, well, let's see. I like this, like what's going on. I think I need a little bit more like shadow stuff over here or something. Not quite sure. I think I may end up kind of creating a black sky for this too. Let's see. See, I'm thinking about just like just kind of I think I like that. That just kind of, let's see. Let's see about how that looks when I color the characters entirely black. That might not be good. Might be too much black. Let's see. All right, I like this silhouette. Let's see if the sky is that darker gray. Let's see what happens. Excuse me. I like how that. I always like how just the white balloons pop against just a black background. That's always just a win when you can get that going on. So I'm gonna take this technique. If anyone knows this technique, just please tell me. I always talk about it. Too lazy to look up the name. It's like feathering. But pretty fun, pretty simple. Just a lot of toothy lines. I was kind of happy with the results. I know it's a simple kind of thing, but if you've got something that is kind of always a win for you, you should probably stick with it. Stick to it. Oops. All right, let's just oops. Start getting this wizard out from the background. It's kind of a luminescent kind of thing, so disembodied spirit, so you can kind of glow a little bit, and I'll use that to kind of play around with the brush texture. I do like that a little less than what I had before. Let's check. Do kind of like that a little less than what's going on here. Keep playing with it. Alright, so if this is black, it's going to have to reverse the dark on these stones. Just get creative with how we make this area kind of shadowy. Kind of seeing what it is that we actually want shadowed. Should be, oh, there it is. That's why it's not connecting. Okay. It saves a lot of time to magic wand. All this stuff. What shall we do about this wizard? It changes it pretty completely when it's when he's now the lightest element in the sky. So we'll close him up and then see what it's like when it's just a ghost. Classic ghost. Let me see if this whole, we get this whole thing darker. What would that be like? God, the light's gone out. That's alright. Except he's the lightest. Kind of like that. Whew. That was some pretty stale content. I apologize. And if you're this far watching, man, you are something else. You're a pretty special person that is interested in making comics and working in Photoshop and all the little details, which, pat yourself on the back if you're that person, because it takes time to learn anything, and I would encourage you to focus the time, next to working on your art and your picture making, storytelling. There's a time to learn from somebody else and from teachers on YouTube, podcasts, school, but there's really nothing like experiential learning through doing. So channel that kind of energy and focus into your own comics, and I think you'll go far. All done, edited, ready to check out the proofs. I printed it out. Actually, I went to InDesign and I have a larger format printer, so I created a design file. This is just an 11 by 17 piece of paper, and I wrote a little editor's note to Hazel, and put her story there on the top, my story on the bottom, and just so she gets the whole picture. And I printed it out on this. This is a really great printer if you're looking for an 11 by 17 printer. It's the HP OfficeJet Pro 7740, and it has a very large scanning bed. And I believe this is definitely under $200. I want to say it's under $100. Maybe that was on sale, but it was incredibly cheap for this kind of scanner and printer, and it prints really well. So let's go check proofs out. So I printed one small first of all, and that was, this was before. So this was a little too small. I wanted a little bigger, so that's why I chose the 11 by 17. And I'm really excited. Now I'm gonna fold it up, take it to her mailbox. Wrote a little note down there. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. All right, let's do it. So here's the final in closer detail. And I really like how this has turned out. I love the presentation of it, the header on the top, and the just it all working together. It feels very much like what I wanted to get out of this. There could be some improvements maybe, but I'm just going to leave it as such and deliver it. I think it'll do the job of, I think, hopefully, just brightening her day. I think I don't really have a whole lot of hopes outside of that. A little comic for Hazel, and package it with this cute little toe foot paper clip. I think she'll enjoy.
Nice. How do you feel?
Feel a little nervous. I don't know if she'll like it, and it's not in color, so I hope she likes it, but I'm nervous. We'll find out. Let's put it in your mailbox.
All right, let's go.
All right, did it. It's in the box. No going back. Come on, Willow, come.